So in today's video, I'm going to be taking you through all the stages of my COVID-19 infection. If you are a subscriber to this channel, you would realize I put out a post a few days ago apologizing for my long inactivity on this channel and explaining that the reason why I was away was because I got infected, unfortunately, with the COVID-19 virus. Fortunately, I recovered, and I felt that apart from explaining to you why I was away, it was important to also tell you what I experienced in the hope that that knowledge might protect some of you and help you with steps to take should you get infected as well. So if you are new to this channel, my name is Joel Sam. I post content usually on how to make money online so that you can become financially liberated. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel because each time you tune in is going to be an amazing learning experience. So without speaking much, let's just jump right into the topic. What happened? How did I get COVID-19? So my symptoms first appeared on a Friday. I have to say that prior to that, I had been feeling some chest pains throughout the week, but I wrote them off because usually I sleep bare chested, and so I thought that those pains might be a result of my habit of sleeping bare chested. So I started putting on a shirt and the pains subsided a bit. I thought everything was okay, but on that fateful Friday evening, I was lying in bed when all of a sudden a headache, a fever, serious eye pain and serious pain in my chest suddenly attacked me like an avalanche. It was just so unexpected, out of nowhere, and so forceful. It was quite unbearable. I was actually frightened. I didn't know what it could be, but the pain was intense. You know, the kind of headache that comes with COVID-19 isn't your regular headache. It's a pounding headache. Let me try to give an analogy for what I felt. It felt as though there were some workmen, miners in my head, using hammers to pound away from all angles. So the pain was intense and it was throbbing. I don't know if any of you have experienced that kind of pain before, but it was that bad. And the eye pain, I felt as though my eyes were going to gouge out of their socket. It was really terrible. Even though I had this experience, I didn't immediately assume that I had COVID-19. The next thing that came to my head was malaria. I thought I had malaria. And so the next day when I woke up, I went to the pharmacy and I explained the symptoms to the pharmacist and, shared with him my fears that I might have malaria. He seemed to agree and he prescribed some malaria drugs for me. And so I went back home and I took them religiously, hoping, the symptoms I was feeling would subside, but they only got worse. So I kept taking my medication. The next day, I was still bad. Things were not improving. And that was the third day after I started taking my medication. And so I felt that, well, if after 3 days, these symptoms have not subsided, then it must be something serious. I was beginning to fear I was infected, but I just didn't want to jump to that conclusion already. What changed my mind and what actually got me alarmed was when I started having difficulty breathing. It was a very weird experience. I don't know if it was anxiety or my lungs were actually getting blocked, but I was taking deeper breaths. I was struggling to breathe. It was just a very uncomfortable experience in my respiratory system and within my chest. It was so uncomfortable, and at this stage I was very frightened because already the week before I had a friend who lost a very dear one to COVID-19, and I was reading all these stories in the media about the cases increasing and people dying, and so at this stage I was very scared. I came home and then I went for a test at Noguchi Memorial Institution, and 2 days later my results came out positive, and so it was confirmed I had COVID-19. I now had to isolate myself and I was sort of treated like an outcast, but I get it was for the good of those who were around me so that I didn't infect them. I was in a room all by myself. Everyone else in the house was wearing a mask. They were all using sanitizers. I mean, I might as well have hung a bell around my neck so that when I move, it rings and everyone knows unclean, unclean, I'm approaching. You understand? So that was the experience. Now, I had COVID-19 for 5 weeks. My symptoms actually got very bad. I mean, I became so weak. The pains in my chest and in my body intensified. They lasted for more than 3 days. I was bedridden for some time, unable to move, unable to do anything. And I had a doctor come every day to give me medication and injections and drips and all sorts of things. He was also checking my lungs. One thing the doctor told me, which might be useful to those of you watching, was that for most cases, when people are reported to the hospital, or when people report to the hospital in an emergency case, usually finding difficulty to breathe, instead of giving them blood thinners or some medication that will enable the lungs to process oxygenated blood easily, the medics immediately put the person on oxygen, and that only aggravates the problem, suffocates the person, and then the person loses their lives. Now, because of the virus, the lungs would be filled with some certain fluid or substance that will keep them from passing oxygenated and deoxygenated blood through them as easily as they normally would. And so, according to the doctor, when a person is infected and has reached that stage where he or she is finding difficulty breathing, what you have to do is to, give a blood thinner or something that will make it easier for the lungs to process blood, rather than, force more oxygen on the person and end up suffocating the person. So, I don't know how true or false it is, but I mean, the doctor gave me drugs to make my blood thinner, and to help my lungs process the blood more easily, and it seemed to work. So just a tip for you out there, maybe the medical professionals can enter the comment section and give us what the true state of affairs is, but I want to believe that the doctor knew what he was talking about. So as I was saying, the symptoms got worse. For 5 weeks I got worse and worse. Actually, in the last 2 weeks I was in recovery stage. I actually recovered. The recovery started in the 4th week, and then by the 5th week I was able to test negative. But for the first 3 weeks it was quite intense. There was a lot of pain, a lot of tiredness, I lost my sense of smell, I lost my sense of taste at a point. I couldn't eat, I had no appetite. It was very, very bad. So how might I have gotten infected? I have theories. As far as I'm concerned, I tried to adhere to all the protocol, the wearing of the mask, observing social distancing. Maybe it was the using of the hand sanitizer I wasn't very religious with. I kind of neglected that. And so while at school, I visited the market so many times. I went to class, I used a lot of public transport. And so my theory is that I might have picked the virus in my interaction with some market woman, or from goods I bought at the market, or even from touching a surface in the car and then not sanitizing later, and having contact with my mouth or somewhere that the virus could easily have had access into my system. So that is my theory on how I got infected. So my advice for you is that you just keep to the protocol. You observe the social distancing, the wearing of the mask, the washing of your hands, and most importantly, using the sanitizer. These measures do not work in exclusivity, they work together in harmony, and so you have to apply all of them religiously. You cannot just wear the mask and think you'll be okay, or wash your hands and think you'll be okay, or just observe social distancing and think you'll be okay. You need to implement all these practices together so that you are protected to the best of your ability. Now, aside the treatment the doctor was giving me on a daily basis, there are some things that my parents recommended I do to, get better. And even though some of these things have not been scientifically proven, they did ease the situation and make things get better. I'm talking about steam inhalation. I'm talking about sitting out in the sun, I'm talking about breathing exercises. All these in one way or the other improved the situation. For the steam inhalation, for example, it helped me, prevent the virus from getting further and further into my system, because once you do the steam inhalation, you're able to get that heat over there to supposedly kill the virus. You're able to cough out what mucus might be stuck in your chest, and so help your lungs perform their function more easily. Okay, COVID-19 causes the lungs to produce some antibodies that will eventually block the lungs with some sort of mucus or fluid. Okay, so once you are doing the steam inhalation, you are able to cough out those substances and help the lungs process oxygen more easily. Okay, so it has an importance. Doing it with neem, doing it with some other substance, it all achieves the same purpose. And so if you are infected or afflicted, you might want to use them. Even if you haven't been infected with COVID-19, I think all in all, it's a very good practice to keep things from getting into your system when they shouldn't be there, and freeing up your chest and your lungs. Also, sitting in the sun, I was told, would help you with a lot of vitamin D, which is needed to help the body fight the virus. So that also worked a bit. And then the breathing exercises, they help a lot. I want to say that during the course of my infection, there was a period of time where I had consistent hiccups, and they were not normal hiccups. They were very, very loud, heavy hiccups. Okay, that could go on for hours. There was this occasion where the hiccups went on for 6 hours straight. Not even a moment of relaxation. I was just going very loudly, okay, for a whole 6 hours. It was very uncomfortable, and in fact, my parents and my siblings were quite alarmed, because there was this time my sister arrived from work, and when she opened the gate, she could hear me in my room. Okay, it was that loud. Those who were outside the compound could hear me with the hiccups, and so that was something else. But what I noticed was, once I did the breathing exercise, it was able to stop the hiccup. And the breathing exercise involves taking in deep breaths, holding them for about 5 seconds, and then coughing out. Okay, that helped. Also, I was able to suck on some honey or sugar, and that was able to take the hiccup away. Even if for a brief period, it did help the situation. And so it's something you might want to look at if you have been infected and you are having hiccups like I did. Now, there are a couple of lessons I learned from this whole experience. Okay, aside being more serious and cautious, there were certain life lessons I learned. I don't know if I can say that I came close to the door of death, but it was definitely a scary experience, which got me thinking about the futility of life. In the second week of my infection, I got to know about someone in another institution who got sick, okay, was coughing, and was asked to go to the hospital, but took everything for a joke, till the person collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, the person died shortly after arriving at the hospital. And it got me thinking, okay, about how futile life is, and how I could have been in the shoes of that particular individual. I'll not mention the name of the person or the name of the institution, out of respect to the individual's family and to the individual's institution. But it got me thinking deeply about the true purpose of life, okay, and the need to try to make your mark as quickly as you can, not waste any time, and be useful to the world generally. It got me thinking very deeply about these things, and I just wanted to share them with you. You don't have to get close to the door of death like some of us have been before you appreciate life for what it is, and the need to, what the Romans used to say, carpe diem, seize the day, take advantage of every opportunity you have to live life to its fullest. It's important. The advice I have for you is to keep adhering to the protocols: social distancing, wearing of the mask, using your hand sanitizer, washing your hands frequently. It is all very, very important. But then also, like I've said, to make maximum use of the time you have now, because there is no time like the time we have now to do the things we need to do or the things we have to do. the opportunity might not present itself tomorrow. Something might come along the way and just cut your whole life short. And so it's important you value what is essential and you strike while the iron is hot. So finally, I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Riafe of Trust Hospital. He was a doctor who attended to me when I got infected, and he was incredibly helpful, with my psychology, with my medical treatment. He helped me be at ease with the whole situation, and he was an expert with his treatment. I thank him so much for the help he gave me and for helping me recover. There were times when I was still exhibiting certain symptoms and I was scared. He assured me that they were all part of the recovery stage, and he prescribed medications that will help them resolve eventually. I just want to say a big thank you to him, and if he's watching this video, I want to let you know, Dr. Riafe, that I am very, very grateful. I also want to send a huge shout out to my friend Stefan Anthony Boko. He's a medical student. When my symptoms first came, he was a person I immediately interacted with, telling him what I was feeling, and he gave me useful advice that helped me handle the situation. So shout out to you, Stefan. Thank you so much. You were incredibly helpful, and you still are incredibly helpful. I cannot wait for you to finally become a doctor, because I know you are going to be of immense assistance to the society. So shout out to you, Stefan. I also want to say a big thank you to my parents. I don't know how I would have handled this situation without them. One thing I want to advise is that try as much as possible not to get infected, because treating COVID is a very expensive endeavor. The costs involved are just so astronomical. First, we want to talk about getting tested. $350. I don't know how many people can afford $350 at Noguchi or what other institutions might be offering for a test that will come, as soon as possible. In the government hospitals, it is free, but you might not get your test results immediately. You may get it after a week or two, by which time, the virus would already have done its disastrous things. That is assuming you have been infected. Okay, so getting a quick test at one of these facilities is very expensive. $350, $400, $500, $550, and so you might just want to be careful and ensure that you don't get infected. There are astronomical costs involved, even in getting treated. The doctor was taking his fee for coming to attend to me, and then the various medications he was administering to me were also very expensive. And so as much as possible, protect yourself, because I don't know what your financial situation might be. I don't know how I may have coped with the situation if I didn't have the support of my parents. So thank them, and a word of warning to you: protect yourself so that you don't have to get to the stage where you are spending so much money to get treated. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. This is me sharing my experience getting infected with COVID-19 and battling it for 5 good weeks. I'm thankful that I recovered, and my condolences to all those who have lost loved ones to COVID-19. I want to say a big thank you to all of you who checked up on me when you realized that I wasn't active on social media, I wasn't posting YouTube videos. I want to say a big thank you to you. It really meant a lot to me. Now I'm back stronger, and we are back to the business of making money. I'll catch you again in my next video. Stay tuned, stay blessed, stay resourceful. Peace out.